I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
How you like that, boy?
On the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's Wednesday. We got a show for you today. It's a show. Not really like super exciting. We're of course going to get into the Republican Civil War. They're fighting each other as usual. Again, we got Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, that's an interesting story here with the continued fallout between he and Donald Trump. We have Matt Gaetz, a little angry. We have House Republicans. We actually have a weirdo conspiracy theory inside the House Republicans. Fun. Biden looking at options about student loan debt. But is he really? Is he? So I'm going to break down an article, which I think is actually pretty dishonest from mainstream media about Biden and student loan debt. So you may have seen something earlier today where it's like, insiders are saying that Joe Biden, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, they're talking about Biden's going to cancel student loan debt. Is he though? Is he? And if that does happen, how much? So we're having that conversation today. And of course, we have Manhattan versus, the truth. The DA in Manhattan refusing to go after Donald Trump. One of the Fox News clowns will start a war against the U.S. if Biden forgives student loans. Yes. Yeah, I did that story. I remember that. I just don't remember their name. Jimmy Dore called Nina Turner a Nazi. Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with that take. Very strongly. Very strongly. I don't know what's going on over there. And I'd rather not know. Oh, that's right. It was Gutfeld. You see, I could not remember. They're all saying stupid, insane things, as usual. All right, so a Nazi. I know, right? That's a little far, don't you think? I mean, wow, disagree, hard disagree. Why? Why would you? I don't know. I don't know. Oh, bad take. Okay, anyway, we got our own show to do. I'm not going to sit there and do commentary on what other people are doing. All right, so Michael Cohen dropping bomb on the investigation. We wish. All right, so look, we're gonna get into the story here. Mitch McConnell. Oh boy, that's an interesting, fun stuff. Okay, so before we do, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps us out as usual. All right, that said, let's get going. I'm not going to be stun locked today. Talking about other people. No stun lock for you all. Focus. The relationship between former President Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell has been quite sour for some time, hitting a pretty low after the Capitol riots. And now, of course, we know that McConnell had been celebrating the fact that Democrats were trying to impeach him. I talked about that. Democrats are going to take care of the son of a bitch, in his own words. Funny enough that the Democrats didn't, because they actually needed votes from Republicans, votes that Mitch McConnell did not deliver. Of course. Now, there's more. Mitch McConnell also reportedly told a New York Times journalist in the immediate aftermath of January 6th that he was exhilarated by the potential damage to then President Trump, according to a new book by Jonathan Martin and Alexander Burns. So, look, in the book, they say that McConnell reportedly felt exhilarated by the fact that his fellow finally totally discredited himself. Did he, though? Well, if anything, he got even more popular with his own base. Now, the conversation reportedly took place early on January 7th, 2021, just hours after the Capitol was ransacked by a group of Trump supporters, or what, Republicans called secret Antifa, FBI, BLM, or anything other than us. Right. Okay. Now, it gets even better. I love this quote. McConnell said, quote, "He put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. Couldn't have happened at a better time." Well, except that he didn't, because you can go back to what he has said before. I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. Well, that's exactly what happened on January 6th, except that he ordered other people, or incited other people, to go and do it for him. Mitch McConnell, incredibly weak. Mitch McConnell, literally, he actually made a huge miscalculation. Huge. He is not as smart as we give him credit for. He is evil, yes. Smart, apparently not so much. Martin and Burns also wrote that the Republican senator asked him, "What do you hear about the 25th Amendment?" Now, of course, it's a way to remove the president from being mentally unfit, and said he was eager for intelligence about whether his fellow Republicans were discussing removing Trump from office, and again, that did not happen. They added in the book, the Kentucky politician seemed almost buoyant, and that he said that Trump was pretty thoroughly discredited. Now, of course, a couple of years later, we're looking at that and saying, nope, none of that happened. And so I guess maybe we have the benefit of hindsight, if you could call it a benefit. But look, when that had happened, I guess there was a lot of people that were like, I cannot believe this happened. Well, there's no way Donald Trump doesn't get in trouble for this. There is no way that Donald Trump does not get thoroughly discredited, kicked out of politics. I mean, he's already crossed so many lines, but this has got to be the line. But it was not. It did not happen. And of course, Donald Trump, very likely to run in 2024. At least that's what I'm thinking. Very, very possible. Now, In separate excerpts of the book, McConnell was also previously quoted as telling advisors that the Democrats are going to take care of him. I already read you that quote, referring to impeachment, and said that if this isn't impeachable, I don't know what is. Well, he was impeached. Doesn't mean he was removed. Because again, the thing that they were lacking the most, Republican votes. They did not have enough votes to remove the president. Hey, you know who could have delivered those votes? Mitch McConnell. And he didn't. Why? Well, Mitch McConnell, again, he's one of the most loathsome people in politics, simply put. He would rather the Democrats somehow take care of Trump without his help, which again was impossible. Couldn't do it. And the reason, of course, he did not offer up his votes or the votes of other people in his caucus is because, well, they're weak. They're incredibly weak. They're weak, they're cowardly, they're sad, and they're pathetic. They couldn't go against Daddy Trump. Couldn't happen. He's a coward. And so all of this talk about Donald Trump being hated behind the scenes, because truly he was, of course. It's at the end of the day, it's not really important, doesn't matter, because their actions, or lack thereof, speak louder than words. And rather than join Democrats to remove that monster, that threat to our political system, they defend him. In fact, Mitch McConnell comes out and says, well, yeah, I'll still vote for him. Of course, I'll support him in 2024 if he's our nominee. Incredibly weak. And why? Again, because the base loves Donald Trump. And this is something that Mitch McConnell doesn't quite understand. You see, he understands that a vote against Trump would have destroyed him politically, but he doesn't understand why people preferred Donald Trump. You see, look, it's because people hate the establishment. Now, Mitch McConnell represents the establishment. And so Mitch McConnell himself and any of these members of Congress that are part of the establishment, well, they always fall to Trump's faux populism. They fall for the fake populism, the voters do. And here's what I'm talking about. Drain the swamp, end the corruption, give people health care. Yes, remember Donald Trump talking about health care, talking about adopting the, the Australian model of health care, which was universal health care. Say, oh, they've got it so much better. Well, it's true, they did. They do. Taking on the elite, taking on the wealthy, elite and the drug companies, big corporations. They talk about that. He talked about that. That's all Trump said that he would do. And guess what? He didn't do it. Of course. But the reason that people believed him is because nobody else does any of those things. Nobody does any of those things. Again, you combine that with all the hateful and disgusting things that Trump said about minorities, women, etc. Well, he developed a following that is fairly strong. And it's still with him. Look, again, even though I think that his group of people has diminished, you still have more people on Donald Trump's side that support people like Trump than you do people like McConnell. McConnell is one of the most hated politicians in this country. The establishment hated. And so, look, there's a reason that Congress has historically low approval ratings. They don't do anything. They don't deliver for the American people. And it's not just McConnell. It's not just the Republicans. It's all the politicians, both sides. They do next to nothing for the average American worker, for the average person. And so you allow fake populists like Donald Trump to come in and, say all these terrible, untrue things, to demonize minorities, to undermine democracy. Because people think, well, God damn it, I just want some change. And so not only that, but look, you also have so many people that have checked out from the political system here in America. because they see that nothing is changing, that nothing has changed under Democrats or Republicans. And then, you have somebody in here who promised big things and is very, very good at lying, very, very good at marketing. And, well, there you have an instant fan club. Trump got elected in the first place because people were begging for some kind of change. Some kind of change. Now, look, establishment Republicans, they didn't like him. That's why. That's why establishment Republicans would always talk behind his back. But the important thing is when push came to shove, literally, on January 6th, they went along with Trump even after he tried to end our system of government. And so the Republicans, they're cowards, all of them. And the Democrats, weak and feckless, of course. So, look, that said, the reporters, look, I get tired of these like, oh, it's a new book. It's a new book. We talk about it, we cover it because they are important scoops. But I'm just tired of reporters sitting on the scoops until it's time to release a book. I think this might have been much more relevant, much more important to have shared during the impeachment. I mean, wouldn't have it mattered if this quote had come out during the impeachment trial? Hey, look, McConnell really wants the Democrats to be able to take care of Trump. So, hey, Mitch McConnell, does that mean you're going to support the impeachment? Is that what you're going to do? Maybe you should do that and back up your words. Publicly embarrass, publicly shame Mitch McConnell and the rest of these Republicans who are actually concerned behind the scenes. January 6th, we have the text from Mark Meadows that showed that they had that position, that they were against Trump, they were worried about this, and they didn't want the Trump wing of the party to take over, destroy our democracy. And Mike Pence and his staff. Oh, but they didn't. The reporters held on to it. They sat on this until they could sell a book. That's gross. Gross. Apparently, selling a book, making more money, well, that's the important thing in Washington, D.C. I guess they had their priorities set. And if the country goes to hell as a result, well, I mean, I guess that's just what happens. Gross. Would have been more famous for spotlighting it when it was relevant. Yeah, apparently, but no. Put the coffee down and step away. You will take my coffee from my cold, dead hands. Cold, dead hands. All right. Following leaked audio of a phone call between House Republican leadership regarding January 6th, one of the House Republicans named hit back. So now here's some context. On Tuesday evening, CNN obtained a phone call between House Republican leaders Kevin McCarthy and Steve Scalise. Now, this is also involved others, and it regarded rhetoric from Representative Matt Gaetz and other Republicans like Mo Brooks, for example, in the wake of the January 6th Capitol riots. So now, here's what one of them said, and I'm going to show you, play you some audio later. Here's one of them. He said, "So I'm calling Matt Gaetz. I'm explaining to him, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to have some other people call him too. But the nature of what, if I'm getting a briefing, I'm going to get another tomorrow. This is serious shit to cut this out." Okay. Gaetz, of course, is one of the ones that had been continuing to spread conspiracies about the 2020 election being stolen. He, of course, supported Capitol rioters. He toured along with Marjorie Taylor Greene to try to get the Capitol rioters out of jail. And so that call appears to be moments before McCarthy stated that certain members of his party need to be kicked off social media for making these certain statements. And so I'm gonna present some audio here from the call. This, again, these are CNN tapes. Take a look.
It's the kicking and taking names thing is the one that I've seen the most from people. I didn't watch his speech, but that's a number of members sent that to me, so that he used that term.
And Louis said, like, we need to fight or something, right? Didn't he say something a couple days out that was horrendous?
It was something like that, yes. It was incendiary.
I know the Dems are in a very strong position right now to drive a lot of things, but our members have got to start paying attention to what they say, too, and you can't put up with that type of...
All right, so, look, I mean, you heard what was in the call. It's incendiary. They need to stop saying this kind of stuff. They were saying it before January 6th. That's what led up to it. It's basically an admission there that, oh, it's kind of our fault. We egged this on, and now it looks really bad for us. So damage control, absolute damage control. And so he's telling everybody, we need to stop with this. We need to stop with this whole thing. Scrub the tweets, get rid of all of this stuff. Yeah, you know, so there you go. Now, the reason, of course, is not necessarily because they cared about democracy. I think it's because of damage control. It's they were worried that it's going to blow up in their face and get them in trouble. And of course, it kind of has, in a way. Now, going back to Matt Gaetz here. So now part of that conversation involved him. And so here's what he said. Quote, these members calling out other members, that stuff's got to stop. The tension is too high. The country is too crazy. Okay, let me just stop there. It's not the country that's too crazy. It's your side that's crazy. It's the Republican Party that is completely going off the rails, insane, with conspiracy theories. But he continues, he said, I don't want to look back and think we caused something. I don't want to play politics with any of that. No, I'm not interested in that because it's really, really difficult to ignore, to defend. Sorry. Very difficult to defend this stuff that we're saying, so we would rather ignore it. I don't want to play politics with any of that. Now, here's House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. He was speaking, he had also called out Gaetz with another member, chiming in to say that he had made comments about Representative Liz Cheney, now the vice chairwoman of the House committee investigating the January 6th attack. So, now, he said, this is serious stuff. It has to stop. It's potentially illegal what he is doing. McCarthy agreed, saying Gaetz was, quote unquote, putting people in jeopardy. And he doesn't need to be doing this. We saw what people would do in the Capitol, you know, and these people came prepared with rope with everything else. So right there, that was the private position of Kevin McCarthy and Steve Scalise, basically admitting, yeah, that's our guys, and they were violent, and they were going to do worse. They were planning to do worse, and it could have been much worse. So, you know, why don't we not do that? Why don't we, distance ourselves from the people who are saying these things? And have our members stop doing that. Let's stop. Now, of course, later on, as Republicans do, they fold to daddy. You know why? It's because they're all beta male. That's right. They're beta males. They're looking for an alpha. They're looking for someone to, they want to kiss somebody's ass really, really desperately. They're authoritarians at heart. And Donald Trump happens to be, well, King Monkey at this point. And they're so desperate to give him his banana. Or to give them his, to give him their bananas. Sorry. They're desperate. They have to. They have to. And so that's what they're doing. Okay. That's why later on they came in and said, oh, no, we 100% support Donald Trump. Donald Trump's our guy. You know, we're totally in favor of him. Mitch McConnell himself says, yeah, no, of course, I'm definitely in favor of Donald Trump. In fact, I will vote for him if he becomes our nominee in 2024. I will support him. I will support him. Weakness, absolute weakness. Very sad. Now, Gaetz responded to this, by the way. Here's what he said in a statement on Tuesday. He basically bashed them for their sniveling calls with Liz Cheney and that they disparaged Trump and the Republicans in Congress who fight for him. This is a behavior of weak men, not leaders. They deemed it incendiary or illegal to call Cheney and Kinzinger anti-Trump, a label both proudly advertise today. Now, look, here's the thing about this, okay? So what you have is, in private, establishment Republicans, McCarthy, McConnell, Scalise, horrified on January 6th. Of course, that this could happen. A lot of the people who were in the building at the time, scared. They feared for their lives. And then later on, again, they went and kissed the ring, kiss his ass. Why? It's because, well, for one, they're all authoritarians. They listen to their alpha, right? And secondly, they're trying to get power. They're trying to keep power. Now, here's the thing. Gaetz also wants power. So what we have in the Republican Party now is basically a civil war going on. You have people who are Trump supporters versus the establishment on the inside, all trying to jockey for power. That's what they're doing. And so, look, Kevin McCarthy is Speaker of the House, or he would be if the Republicans were in control. So if Republicans take the midterms, that's the guy who gets the gavel. Very coveted position. So now, of course, there's a lot of Republicans who would love to have McCarthy's position right now, including Matt Gaetz. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? And so McCarthy, high value target. They want that speakership position. And now these tapes, they're ammunition. Oh, you didn't support Donald Trump. Because remember, the base loves Trump. And they rely on their voters in order to retain power. And so it is a power play. And this is perceived weakness on McCarthy. They're coming for him. They're coming for him. And these tapes could possibly be his undoing. I guess it all depends on how much support there is publicly for Trump. All right. Let's go to the next story. Tapes, what year is it again? Hey, we have the tapes. We have the tapes. Is McCarthy toast? I don't know. It depends on how strong he comes up. All right. There's a lot of conspiracy theories floating around about the 2020 election. I've talked about them numerously on this show. I think most of the Republicans who were even spreading them knew that they were bullshit. I mean, with the exception of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who actually are true believers. But apparently, there's another true believer that we haven't heard much of. And that's Representative Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. So, look, I didn't know who this guy was, but apparently he was somebody who worked with the Trump White House to try to find ways to overturn the election. In fact, according to text messages obtained by CNN, Perry had even called for an investigation into Italian satellites and whether or not those Italian satellites had stolen votes from President Donald, or former President Donald Trump. Amazing. I like to joke about, oh, it's the Italians, the Iranians, the Pomeranians, they all got together and they tried to steal the election for Joe Biden. Turns out they actually believe it. Wow. Now, according to CNN, Perry texted Meadows numerous times, and this is how we found this out, following the election. On November 12th, he sent Meadows a message asking him to have the country's intelligence agencies look into international chatter about Dominion voting systems. From an intel friend, he wrote, Director of National Intelligence needs to task NSA to immediately seize and begin looking for international comms related to Dominion. That same day, Perry had also texted Meadows about a theory about the UK being behind Donald Trump's loss. The UK? Really? Perry wrote to Meadows again on November 12th, claiming the Brits orchestrated a conspiracy to manipulate Dominion voting machines in the U.S., and that then CIA Director Gina Haspel was helping to cover it up. So, but wait, what happened to Venezuela? I thought it was a ghost of Hugo Chavez that was working with Dominion.
In Venezuela.
I don't understand. Where's this conspiracy theory coming from? At first it's the Venezuelans, and now it's was the Italians, now it's the Brits. What is this, like some global conspiracy to take down Donald Trump? And of course they would say unironically, yes. Because of course, right? In total insanity. Oh, by the way, here's more of the text. And Gina is still running around the Hill covering for the Brits who helped quarterback this entire operation. DNI needs to be tasked to audit their overseas accounts at CIA and their National Endowment for Democracy. Well, okay. Look, this is total nuttery. Oh no, it's the Brits, it's the Canadians, it's the Italians, it's the Iranians, it's the Pomeranians. It's all these different, the Chinese, it's everybody. It's everybody, they're all against us. They're all against Donald Trump. Victimhood mentality 101. Just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And that's all they can do, that's all they have. They don't have a shred of evidence. But as we've seen, apparently there's a lot of people in the Republican base that don't need any evidence. I don't need the evidence. I don't need no stinking evidence. No. I feel it in my bones that it was the Italian secret satellites. What were they orbiting alongside of the weather machine? Come on. This is all nonsense. Nonsense. Now, even so much that Mark Meadows stopped responding. In December 2020, Perry again reached out to Meadows, but received no response. He reportedly sent him a conspiracy theory video from YouTube. A YouTube conspiracy video. Oh yeah. I was browsing. And by the way, I don't know what video it was, what conspiracy site that was, but I mean, take your pick. Hey, bro, I'm in the government. And by the way, this person was a part of the military for 30 years, the veteran, and had very close ties to our intelligence agencies. And yet, homeboy is sending links to YouTube videos from the conspiracy side of YouTube to Mark Meadows. Oh man, check out this video. It blows the whole thing wide open. Dude, you should be smarter than this. I mean, cite your sources, bro. No, just trust me. Trust me. It's got all the information. It blows this thing Wide open. Really? Wow. And again, that's the Italian satellite conspiracy video. Amazing. And Perry asked, alongside with that, quote, why can't we just work with the Italian government? What if the Italian government was in on it? On what? I don't know. The satellites stealing votes? How? No, this is Mike Lindell territory. That's what this is. But unlike Mike Lindell, this guy actually has power. And so he tried to get the intelligence community to waste time and resources chasing down a nonsense conspiracy theory. What a waste. It's not like we don't already waste enough money on so-called intelligence sources, right? And mainly that it just ends up spying on American people and soldiers having phone sex. But nonetheless, he's like, no. Now we're going to use our resources, our infinite resources, to chase down conspiracy YouTube videos. Great. Meadows does not appear to have responded to that. Emails released by the Senate Judiciary Committee last year showed that he did forward the same video to then Acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen hours later. So again, that was Perry that had been spreading this video around. Rosen subsequently refused to look into the claim further and said he would not be giving any special treatment to Giuliani or any of his so-called witnesses. An email discussion between the acting attorney general and his top DOJ officials emails show. Another former DOJ official, Richard Donahue, responded to Rosen about the Italian satellites, saying, quote, pure insanity. Pure insanity. Well, I mean, you got that right. But again, this man has power. And by the way, he actually played a pretty big role in trying to steal the election. As bonkers as he is, maybe that's why. Look, here you have Perry playing a key role in strategizing with Trump allies about throwing out electoral votes in states that Donald Trump had legitimately lost. In testimony released earlier by the committee, former Trump White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson told House investigators about Perry's role in White House strategy sessions. Quote, Mr. Perry is one that immediately jumps to mind as me recalling him physically being there and then pushing back, Hutchinson said, describing how the Pennsylvania Republican clashed with Trump's White House counsel over whether the plan to submit alternate slate of electors was legally sound. Those are the fake electors. You remember that. These are the people that were not actual electors, part of the Electoral College, and had submitted fake paperwork to the National Archives asserting that they were the electors. Some even affixing official state seals onto that paperwork. So forging documentation in order to try to help Donald Trump steal the election. Fake electors. And this guy's like, oh yeah, no, totally sound. I'm defending this. Meadows, by the way, was also connected with Perry. As I said, there are numerous texts back and forth. In fact, Meadows had gone through Perry to speak with local lawmakers in his state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, of course, is one of the states that Donald Trump and his team were trying to overturn, right? More than a month later, Perry texted Meadows stressing the need for urgency as January 6th and the Biden's inauguration were quickly approaching. Here's one of the texts. Mark, just checking in as time continues to count down. 11 days to 1/6 and 25 days to inauguration. We got to get going. You're going on what? What are you doing? What are you doing? Apparently trying to ensure that there was no peaceful transfer of power. And it gets worse. On 5 separate occasions, according to the text messages reviewed by CNN, Perry texted Meadows to request a conversation move to an encrypted messaging app called Signal to alert Meadows to a message he had sent on that platform. So now why does that matter? Why is that important? Well, if you have these conversations on Signal, then they're not able to be reviewed. Had they had all these conversations on that app, we would never know about them. That's it. And so Signal does that by not collecting or saving any user data. So it would make it very difficult to provide information to things like, I don't know, the January 6th committee, law enforcement, congressional investigators, even under a subpoena. Subpoena wouldn't work. No, of course not. So now that's a perfect place to remain anonymous. Now, there are, of course, benefits to that. For example, journalists using it to get scoops. That's a great use for Signal, especially when whistleblowers come out against certain nefarious government actions. You want those things to be available, but at the same time, you don't want politicians, and that's why you have the Congressional Records Act and the Presidential Records Act, I should say, to be able to record these conversations of our elected officials so that we know what they're doing and what they're saying behind the scenes. So if they are doing crime, we should be able to know that and have a paper trail of all this. And so if he's saying, Mark, you got to get on Signal, man. I sent some stuff on Signal. You got to go there. Well, I mean, obviously there seems to be more to Scott Perry's involvement in the effort to basically steal the election than we know of right now. Now, these texts also show that Perry acted as a conduit between Meadows and the Justice Department Attorney Jeffrey Clark, creating a direct link between Perry, Clark, and the Trump White House-led effort to try to get the Justice Department to overturn the election. And you know what that is? That's a conspiracy. To do what? No, it's actually people getting together to conspire to end our system of government and install Trump as an illegitimate president. That's not what patriots do. And the reason I bring up that word is because they call themselves patriots. But in reality, their actions really prove that they are the complete opposite. Okay. How are none of us surprised by any of these stories? Because y'all are smart. Y'all see what's going on. That's why you're here. You know? But there are so many people who do not get reached by this content. So many people who still don't know. All right. All right. A recent report out in CBS News claims that Joe Biden is trying to look at some options related to canceling student loan debt. Now, let me give you some context here. So, look, recently there was a White House meeting with members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and they were speaking with Biden. This is according to an article by CBS News, that in this 90-minute meeting, a lot of different things were brought up. Immigration, environmental justice, the midterm elections, as well as the topic of student loan debt. According to the report, when the Hispanic Caucus members mentioned that, the president said he had asked aides to explore his options. And this is their writing, by the way. Quote, which is a signal to lawmakers that he may be willing to go farther than he pledged during the campaign. Now, remember, Biden promised to cancel $10,000 worth of student loan debt. He obviously has not done it. Other people have said, okay, let's go $50,000. Bernie Sanders says cancel every single penny. That's the progressive position. So now, there's nothing in this article, as you're going to read, or as you're going to hear, I'm going to read that to you, that suggests that he is going any further than what he promised and not even likely to do what he had promised. Okay, so let's go to the report. Here's what one person speaking on the condition of anonymity who was in attendance, quote, "They're looking at different options on what they can do. On forgiving it entirely, that was our request," said one of the lawmakers. All right, so again, the report says he's willing to go further, but in reality, you just have a quote from somebody saying, well, we asked him to go further. Oh, but there's more. According to the report, Representative Tony Cardenas, Democrat of California, who attended the meeting, said the president is open to debt forgiveness, but then offered absolutely no detail. The president had never mentioned an amount, nor did the president say he was going to wipe out all student debt, Cardenas said. He did a dialogue with us about the differential between young people who went to public schools or private schools, and we CHC members said that he should focus on both. And he said, quote, "Okay, good to know. Yes, that sounds very enthusiastic, and we're going to cancel student loan debt. No. Okay, good to know." Cardenas said he reiterated to Mr. Biden that the Hispanic Caucus supports executive action that would forgive at least $10,000 to student and college debt if Congress cannot pass legislation doing so. Well, Congress ain't passing anything. Congress is where legislation, specifically the Senate, it's where progressive legislation goes to die. The House will pass it, but no, it ain't getting through the Senate because we still have a filibuster. Why? Because the Democrats, didn't want to get rid of the filibuster. They said, no, we're not doing that. We're going to keep the filibuster, and we're going to let the Senate parliamentarian block us from doing anything. Now, in response to what Cardenas had told him, the president just smiled and said, "Oh, you're going to like what I do on that. I'm looking to do something on that, and I think you're going to like what I do." Oh. Okay, so, wow. Vague quote from the president with no numbers. Just, "Oh, you're going to like what I do, Jack. Let me tell you, it's going to be great. You're going to love it." Love what? Where are the details? Now, again, getting to my problem here, CBS News is running with the headline, "Oh, here, the president might be canceling student loan debt. Very important, very exciting." Except that, no, there's nothing here. I mean, except for one thing, and that's marketing. CBS News is helping out Joe Biden by pushing a narrative that he might be canceling student loan debt by August. August, of course, being the end of the moratorium on student loans. So I would be thrilled if there is debt cancellation, but what this feels like is just basically a midterm ploy to string people along. Oh, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have this meeting. We're going to leak to the press, which is what this CHC member had done, and push a narrative that he is strongly considering canceling student loan debt. Well, how about instead of doing that, just cancel it? You have the authority. Not only does he have the authority, but it's basically a slam dunk when it comes to Democratic voters. In fact, look, according to a survey from Navigator Research, as this was done back in February, 83% of Democratic voters say, let's get rid of the debt. Let's do something about the debt. And at least partial cancellation. Overall, the American people agree. 63% do back debt cancellation, including 59% of independents and 41% of Republicans. The strongest support came from the black community, understandably so, because they have the most amount of debt. Followed by Hispanics, 72%, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, 68%, and 57% of white respondents Another poll, Harvard Youth, finds that the poll found 85% of respondents support some form of government action on student loans. In fact, of those who want the government to take action, 38% wanted the government to cancel all student loans. That's actually the highest support of any of the different options polled. So again, 27% backed the government helping a little bit. But again, 38%, the highest amount, supported the government canceling it for everybody. Just cancel all student loan debt. Democrats were most in favor of canceling the debt for everyone. 48% backing it versus 20% of Republicans and 39% of independents. So it does really, really well with independents as well. Now, even Republicans, 73% want the government to do something about student loan debt. 38% say they want to help with repayment options, and 15% want debt canceled for some. And like the other poll, like consistent polling, you have a majority, mainly black borrowers who are impacted the most by student loans, wanting to cancel it. 43% of Hispanic and 38% of Asian respondents versus 33% of white respondents. So it's very popular among the American people. Cancel the debt. Cancel the debt. Why is Joe Biden taking so long to figure it out? He can read a poll. It's not stupid. No, look, I have one big answer to that. I've talked about it before. Wall Street. Specifically student loan asset-backed securities, or SLABs. The SLABs market on Wall Street is huge, worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and those investments are all on the line. They're all at stake. And so, obviously, if you eliminate all student loan debt, or even a portion of it, that's going to have an impact on the markets. Joe Biden loves the markets. Democrats love the markets. And so they're beholden to their donors, the owner donors. Okay? And so there's either a couple of things at play here. And I'm being charitable. He's either waiting for the Wall Street investors, the donors, to give them a number that they think is acceptable. That's not going to impact the slabs market too much, but will allow him to claim some sort of victory in the, or deliver for the voters in some capacity so that they don't get blown out in the midterms. I mean, there's either that, or again, he has already decided to do this and is now waiting up until as close to the midterms as they can get for maximum impact. And by the way, if Joe Biden is going to cancel any amount of debt, it's going to be on the lower end. And so I think at this point, it's somewhat inevitable that some portion of debt gets canceled. 10,000, very, very possible. You know why? Because it doesn't wipe out the slabs market. Now that's $377 billion wiped out in debt for the 45 million Americans that have student loan debt, federal student loan debt. This doesn't do anything with private. And so you wipe that out. That is going to have an impact in the slabs market, but it will not destroy it. And so investors obviously are like, oh, we don't like this at all. I don't know, we really don't want you to do it. And again, that's why it's taking so long for Biden to come to a decision. He's got a way like, oh, my donors really are not going to like this. But then we're going to be blown out. You look at the polls, disaster ahead. And we don't have anything to run on. This is a slam dunk. We got to do something. And so they know they have to do that. They're going to get obliterated. And that's why you see these media cycle, or these media articles getting hyped up in the news cycle. Biden's team, they know the polls. They know there's disaster. And again, they're stuck between not wanting to be obliterated and pissing off the donors. They know they got to do something. But let's be clear. Again, if it's going to be something If they're going to do anything, it's the bare minimum. That's corporate Democrat 101. Which, by the way, understand that the reason I believe he's going to do something about it is that he wouldn't have been kicking the can down the road with this student loan pause, this moratorium on paying student loans for so long. Kicking the can, kicking the can, kicking the can. They're giving them time. Maybe they're giving the markets time to invest in other things, to invest out of the slabs market. I don't know. But again, there's no way he's canceling all of it. There's no way he's canceling 50,000 of it. No, it's going to be 10,000. If he does it at all. And that's out of student loan debt that is almost $1.8 trillion. So say he does cancel 10,000, that's $377 billion of debt knocked out. You still have nearly $1.5 trillion. That does very little. Very, very little. You still have this huge debt problem, but you still also will have the slabs market that can collateralize and capitalize on that debt. So at the end of the day, they're still going to be making some money because there will be no other fixes in the system. If you do not pair debt cancellation with free college, making colleges and universities public, tuition free, then you're not actually fixing the problem. But as we know about Joe Biden, well, as he told his donors, nothing will fundamentally change. And so a Band-Aid to try to save himself and his party in the midterms seems right up his alley. But, and here's the caveat to that even. If he doesn't bungle this, and I say that because I never underestimate the ability for the Democrats to bungle what could be an easy win and good marketing. There's one promise that he kept. Yeah, true. All right. Let me read some super chats here and head out for the day. That's really all I've got. They're very good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. No change at all would have been a win. It's getting worse. Well, things haven't changed for the wealthy, except that it's actually gotten better for them. All right. Let's go here. You were supposed to mod me when Rachel L is out. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. ADHD brain. Let me go back here and do that. I can do here. Okay. Well, there you are. Flip-flopping Senator Joe Manchin now says he cares about voting rights. Can you tell Anna about slabs, please? I haven't heard anything about them from TYT. I mentioned that to her, actually. And she basically responded with, yeah, that makes sense. Because I presented it in the context of, this is why Joe Biden's not going to cancel all of student loan debt. And I told her about the slabs market. She's like, yeah, that makes sense. The Serfs did a great breakdown on it as well. Chris, if you haven't checked them out. Lance talked about that on one of his streams, I think last couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. Slabs market. Pretty dangerous stuff. All right. Well, all right. That's it. Jonathan Prince, thank you for the very kind super sticker and super chat as well. Really appreciate that. Junk Saint, thank you for resubbing for a month of tier 1 for 6 months. Really, really appreciate it. The slab story is not time sensitive. It's something they could cover in depth later, just thinking out loud. No, that's a great idea. The slabs market's not going away, especially as long as there is student loan debt. Surprise status quo didn't cover it. It's not something that's been getting a lot of attention, honestly, because I think it's very esoteric. It's kind of a rabbit hole that not a lot of people are aware of. I mean, these are very obscure financial instruments that were a lot like, I mean, think about back in 2008 when they were doing the same thing with mortgage-backed securities on Wall Street. And they were packaging up the bad debt and selling it, trading it, and doing all this stuff. Also leveraging it, by the way, taking out loans with that as collateral. And so, I mean, it really is complicated and yet very, I think, impactful when it comes to why certain politicians are taking certain positions. It comes down to Wall Street investors. It comes down to the people that are invested in the slabs market and how much money they're making off of these financial vehicles. The MBDs were a total shit show of a mess, and slabs are the same thing now. Absolutely. Again, this is what I was saying. And again, to go back to my example of mortgage-backed securities, not a lot of people talked about that either. There were very few select people that were really, ringing the alarm about this, that were going, look at the mortgage-backed securities. This thing is a house of cards. It is a pyramid, and it is going to fall over. This is not going to go well if you have defaults on this. And by the way, they are betting on people to default. That's the whole point. They're betting on people who cannot afford to repay these student loans, this debt. Oh, again, another house of cards, another disaster in the making. And very, very few people are talking about it. So I'm just hoping that, if it does not, or if it does crash, which I hope it doesn't, probably at some point in the future, somebody's going to come across that video and be like, oh, there were people that were warning us and we didn't listen. Yikes. Jack saying, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub. I really, really appreciate that as well. Sharing is caring. Companies get their debt cleared. It's called bankruptcy. And what's funny about student loans on that is that we don't have that same luxury. We cannot get student loans discharged through bankruptcy, but they can. And they get government bailouts. Where's ours? Where's ours? We ain't getting one. Or if we are, it'll be $10,000, and then Democrats will declare the problem solved. We have done the most glorious thing ever, and the media is going to do the same thing. They're going to be like, oh my God, the Democrats did the most progressive thing ever. Where it was just a Band-Aid, and they made no fundamental change. They just slapped a Band-Aid, a $10,000 Band-Aid, or $377 billion Band-Aid on it. And the problem will continue. People will continue amassing giant student loan debt. And so, again, this is the appearance of doing something without actually doing something, which is Democrat 101. So I think I'm very clear. This is why I am convinced that he will forgive some portion of that debt, because it still aligns with the promise nothing will fundamentally change. Keeping it real. Okay. Well, with that, let's raid. Let's see. Let's raid into. Haven't done a left flank vets raid in a while, so let's do that. They will never stop talking about how they handed out money we didn't deserve, and that didn't fix anything. That it's our fault, so they never have to do it again. Occam stays here with a good point as well. Oh, Steve, look at how much money we gave to student loans and to forgive them, and it just didn't work. There you go. It's like slapping a Band-Aid on a dead body of student loans. True. But again, Democrats will declare victory. Look at how progressive we are. Please elect us. Cancel all of it. All right. Well, everybody, love you. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important you do so. Like and share our videos. We are crushing it apparently on Facebook, believe it or not. Lots and lots of shares. So thank you for all everybody who's been sharing our content on Facebook and watching us live. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everybody else, thank you as well. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you all later.
There's insanity in the control room. Who's got a hammer?
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.